President. I've served on this council for 3 years and 1 month, which amounts to 1,125 days, but who's counting? I started my first year on City Council at the exact opposite end of the table, and then spent my second year on council in the middle, and I'm now here at the far end from where I started. So I really had to step down from council because my trajectory was out the door or through the wall. But I want to take the opportunity, Mr. President, to reflect on my time in office, which has amounted to a very productive 1,125 days. And I know that at times I've been a bit long-winded here at these council meetings, particularly in this portion of the agenda, saying paragraphs when maybe a sentence would do. So, of course, this speech will be no different. First, before anything else, I want to thank my fellow members of the Southfield City Council. To Donald Fracassi, no one leaves a bigger mark on the history of this city than you. And it is a true honor to be able to say that we worked hand in hand to connect the vision of our city's founders to the development of our city's future. And I know that one day I will be telling the next generation of Southfielders about the legacy of Don Fracassi. But for now, I'm excited that that partnership is not yet over. I'm excited for your upcoming tenure as mayor in 2015. And I'm also excited that as the Evergreen Road project continues into next spring and Fracassi Swamp takes shape, that I don't have to be sitting at the council meetings anymore. To Ken Siver and Myron Frazier, thank you for your friendship. I've sat next to either Myron or Ken every year during the council study sessions, and so I'm going to miss the laughs that we've had over the last 3 years a lot. Myron, there have been countless times when you have studied the same council packet as me, you've reviewed the same documents and materials as me, but you've come to the council meeting and you've asked a question of the administration or staff or a developer, and I've thought to myself, wow, I wish I had thought of that question. So voters continue to be incredibly wise to place their trust in you.
Thank you.
To Ken, you've been there from the beginning. We first met when I was an intern for Paul Condino, working on some school-related issues, and you were among my first supporters when I decided to run for city council over 3 years ago, and served as an acting therapist throughout that campaign. And I appreciate your friendship. You have a big year ahead of you, and I'm excited for you to share the history of your dedicated service to our community with Southfield residents. To Sylvia Jordan and Sid Lance, my friend, and Joan Seymour, who can't be here right now, I appreciate your dedication to make the community that we all call home a better place. And the dialogue that we've brought to this council table has contributed to many achievements over these last 3 years. And I also want to acknowledge our city clerk, Nancy Banks, and our city treasurer, Irv Lowenberg, for contributing to that dialogue. Here are some of the major achievements we've achieved together. I'm leaving this city council and leaving this city a safer place than I found it. And I think that's the most significant achievement over these last 3 years. Crime is going to start off this year at an 8-year low. We've appointed new police chief, Eric Hawkins, a new fire chief, Keith Rowley. We've hired 6 new police officers and 4 firefighters through the passage of the SAFER grant. We appointed a new city attorney, Sue Ward, and 2 new attorneys. And we appointed, it was a tough period around this time last year with the death of our beloved friend, Jim Charette. But our city is in able hands with the unanimous selection of Fred Zorn as city administrator. We've balanced consecutive budgets, no layoffs, and to that end, we ended the hiring freeze. And so, council, I urge you, as we're filling in some of these department heads, and some of these department heads are already in place, and we're hiring staff, to listen to the experts in their chosen field when making a decision. In terms of road construction, we've hit almost every road or every area throughout this community. To name a few, Lasser Road between 11 and 12 Mile over the last 3 years, Civic Center Drive between Evergreen and Northwestern Highway, the Beach Road Bridge, most of 8 Mile, Evergreen Road between 8 Mile and 9 Mile, Greenfield Road between 8 Mile and 9 Mile. And thanks to city voters, we can do so much more in the local neighborhoods throughout this city over the next 10 years. And I'm not forgetting Evergreen Road between 10 Mile and 11 Mile. I firmly believe that this project is going to lead to the economic rebound of this city. And this partnership between the city and the city center and Lawrence Tech is the best thing we have going for us. So don't let delay at this table slow down that momentum. In terms of personal achievements on City Council, I'm proud that I've pushed for the creation of the Economic Development Committee to show that Southfield is open for business. I've championed a mixed-use zoning, which we've utilized several times, a non-motorized pathway plan to provide alternative transportation for Southfield residents. And as was said earlier, I think I've encouraged millennials to participate in our civic government here. We passed a resolution that called for the appointments of more people under the age of 30, 35 to our boards and commissions. And I want to touch a little bit about being young and being young on this city council. When I was elected, there were some concerns over how this then 25-year-old go-getter was going to affect the dynamic of this council and this organization. And it still amazes me that I'll meet people in this city who have no idea what my name is, but know me as the young kid on city council. No matter how much older I get, for the last 3 years, I've been the 25-year-old councilman in the newspaper. For the record, I'm 28 and a half. I hope I've dispelled any notions that someone young or new to this organization can't contribute, which is important as this council will welcome 2 new members over the next year and at least 1 more in the 2015 election. Council, please treat them as equals. Value their input as if they've served as long as you have, because in reality, some of their strongest qualifications will be their fresh set of eyes. I hope I've been a good colleague. There are life skills that I've learned here and will take with me to Lansing. To listen before I talk, but not be afraid to speak my opinion. To compromise and find consensus, but not be afraid to stand alone when I feel passionate about something, particularly that bioswale. But as was mentioned earlier, I do feel like I've left here with some unfinished business. And I'm encouraged that hopefully this anti-discrimination ordinance can be taken up next year. I won't be on council at the time, but I do want to add my input as I brought this forward. The state's Elliott Larson Civil Rights Act protects Michigan residents by prohibiting discrimination in employment, housing, and public accommodation based on a person's religion, race, national origin, age, sex, height, weight, familial status, or marital status, but it does not protect residents based on their sexual orientation or gender identity. And as was mentioned, Mayor Lawrence and I introduced this ordinance around this time last year, and it went through the legislative committee with full support, and I chair that committee. President Obama, a Democrat, has asked for LGBT anti-discrimination protections on the federal level, and Congress has refused to act. And Governor Snyder, a Republican, has asked for LGBT anti-discriminations on the state level, and the state legislature has refused to act. And just last week, a bill died in committee that was going to do that. So I urge this council to join the more than 30 municipalities that protect all of its citizens from discrimination within their border, including some of the largest economies in our state. And I would say we're competitive with those cities: Detroit, Grand Rapids, Ann Arbor, and Lansing, and our surrounding cities in Oakland County: Birmingham, Ferndale, Pleasant Ridge, Royal Oak, and Lathrop Village, our neighbor. Farmington Hills is having this discussion right now, and so should Southfield. Business Leaders for Michigan, which is a roundtable of top CEOs in Michigan, supports this expansion of anti-discrimination because failing to do so leaves us vulnerable on that battlefield of attracting young and progressive talent to our state and our city. Plus, it's the right thing to do. In closing, I have to give special acknowledgement to 4 people, all Southfielders, who are the reason that I sit here as a city councilman and will soon serve as our state representative. First and foremost, my parents, who are still remarkably at the meeting still. If you met me on the campaign trail, either in 2011 or 2014, or hopefully every campaign into the future, you've met my mother, who is with me every step in every neighborhood along the way. And if you've seen a long shot of the city council meetings from that camera on the balcony, and I'm looking with my head down, it's because I'm likely responding to a text message from my father, who watches these council meetings diligently. I'm only here because of their love and support, and I appreciate all that you've done for me. I really, truly do. Thirdly, to State Representative Rudy Hobbs, my former boss and now predecessor. As I prepare to take office in January, the one thing that I consistently hear in the corridors of the state capitol is the universal and bipartisan praise for Rudy Hobbs. I have the task of filling those large shoes in Lansing and will work every day to meet his standard of serving his constituents as an effective lawmaker. And lastly, what more can I say, Mayor Lawrence? Of 10 and a half years of mentorship and of friendship, I will say this. I was Mayor Lawrence's staff during her lieutenant governor race in 2010. And when you pluck two Southfielders out of the suburban comforts of Oakland County and put them in a car at 1 o'clock in the morning in the middle of the UP on that 5-hour trek from Marquette down to Traverse City, with no cell phone service, no radio stations, no car in front of you for hundreds of miles, no car behind you for hundreds of miles, and all you have is each other and an iPod playing Patti LaBelle, you really get to know one another. I've been with you side by side on both winning and losing campaigns over this last decade, and perhaps the most important lesson that you've taught me is to persevere when others count you out. And you have that special type of political and personal courage that I admire so much. And I hope it's rubbed off on me. And I thank you for everything. I appreciate you. So, Council, I'm not going anywhere, really. You're going to get sick of me attending these council meetings. I promise you that. Unfortunately, I'll be restricted to 3 minutes and not, however long this is going to go. But actually, to that end, I actually want to keep true to my promise to be engaged and involved. And Mr. President, I would like to speak at the next council meeting on the presentation portion of the council meeting and request to be on the agenda to introduce my staff in my office, how residents can access me and find out what my office can provide to Southfield residents. So for the last time, Mr. President, I yield back to you.
Will you make sure that